Alright, hey guys, Game here, and I'm back with another video, and today guys I'm doing another edition of games I recently brought online. The series with probably the most uncreative name of all time, but it's, you know, it's the 7th episode now and it's kind of too late to change, so we're just gonna have to roll with it. Yeah, this is episode 7 of this series, and in case you don't know the gist of it by now, it's basically just a pickup series where I show you guys just a bunch of random online pickups. And that's about it really. So with all that being said, let's just get started. Now, a few of these games I have shown off in previous videos on both the main and the extra channel before, but quite a few of these are very recent purchases, and in fact I've still got a few more games coming in the post actually right now. I brought like just a bunch of stuff recently which will be featured in the next episode of Games I Brought Online. So yeah, so let's start things off with a game which I did show off in my Tony Hawk Collection update video, which was back in June, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for the Game Boy Color, complete in box, complete with the original price sticker and everything. So yeah, I showed this off in my Tony Hawk Collection update video. Yeah, it's obviously a complete in box copy of the final Tony Hawk for Game Boy Color. It is a little bit beat up, as you can see. I mean, it's in fairly decent condition, all things considered. I had to actually glue down this side here because it came off completely when I first got it, so I actually had to glue it down, which was pretty annoying. But yeah, so everything is in there. Just quickly show you. So there's the cartridge, and then inside we have the manual, the little health and safety booklet, and the bit inside to hold everything together. So yeah, so I'm going to be honest, I haven't even tested this game out yet. I have played the GBC version of Pro Skater 3 before on an emulator, and to be honest, I didn't really like it at all. I mean, the Game Boy Color games just weren't really all that great. You know, the same applies with Pro Skater 1 and 2 as well. You know, they weren't all that great, to be honest, especially compared to the Game Boy Advance ones, but because they were like 2D, like side-scrolling games. Yeah, and this was like my least favorite of the bunch, which is, you know, bizarre considering Pro Skater 3 is my favorite game of all time, but this is the worst version of it, in my opinion. It's not a terrible game, but it's just like, it's honestly not great. But I just bought it mainly for the collection, and I got a complete in box because I actually got like a fairly good deal on it. I only paid around about a £5 for this, which is crazy because usually Pro Skater 3 just loose cart on its own goes for usually around £7 or more. So getting a complete in box copy for slightly less than that was, you know, was quite a deal. So that's why I ended up getting it. But usually with Game Boy games, I usually just get like a loose cart. But this is one of the rare exceptions where it was actually cheap enough to get a complete in box copy. So I decided like, why the hell not? So yeah, I got that. All right, and then the next game is one that I've already shown off in this series before, but I brought another copy because the one I brought beforehand, which wasn't even that long ago, it was like back in November when I first bought this game, that copy didn't work, so I had to sell it and buy another one a few months later. Yeah, and that game is Samurai Warriors for the PS2, the first Samurai Warriors. So yeah, so I brought a copy back in November. It was actually my second copy of the game because I had a Japanese one, which I got for only 1p, which I showed off in the very first episode of the series. And then I brought a European copy at the end of last year, but it didn't work unfortunately, which was really annoying. I got it for a really good deal as well. It was like only £1.98 or something. It was super cheap, had the manual and everything, but yeah, the actual game itself just didn't work, which was really annoying. So I had to get rid of it and buy another copy, which thankfully this one does work. So yeah, this one was a little bit more than what the other one was. This one was about £3 something, so yeah, just a little bit more, but it's still pretty cheap. But yeah, I'm happy to finally have a working copy of Samurai Warriors, because this was one of the PS2 games I wanted for a really long time. You know, I mean, it's basically like, it's Dynasty Warriors, like sort of, you know, samurai spin-off, and which I haven't really had too much experience with the Samurai Warriors franchise. I played this, and I used to have Samurai Warriors 2 Empires for the 360 long ass time ago, but I sold it because I couldn't get into it. And then I played Warriors of Orochi 1 and 4, which was like the crossover series between Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. And that's about it when it comes to my experience with Samurai Warriors specifically. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of Dynasty Warriors, and I'd love to play the rest of the Samurai Warriors series because they're mostly the same game, just like, you know, different settings and stuff. But yeah, so I'm happy to finally have a working copy of that. I was going to get just like a disc for it, like buy just a disc only copy, and then swap out with my original broken one. But the thing is, just the disc on its own was just about as much as getting like that copy. So it made sense just to kind of buy another copy of the game. But because I wasn't going to spend like £4 or £5 on just the disc, you know, when I could have gotten another complete box copy for £3. So yeah, that's why I brought that. Alright, then next up we have another complete box Game Boy Color game, which this one I showed off on my Instagram a while ago. I never showed off in a video, but I did post about it on my, but I did feature it in a picture on my Instagram. And that is Shaun Palmer's Pro Snowboarder for the Game Boy Color. Shaun Palmer's Pro Snowboarder, especially for the PS2, is a really, really underrated game in my opinion. I have the Game Boy Advance version of this as well, just a loose cart. But yeah, as you can see, I've got a complete box copy of the Game Boy Color version, which I don't think... Have I ever played this before? I know I've definitely played the GBA one on both an emulator and on real hardware. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember if I've ever actually played the Game Boy Color version. I think I have. I know I haven't played this cartridge specifically because I'm too lazy to test it. But it is complete. It is the American version, which is pretty annoying. You can tell by the ESRB rating. But the European version of this is actually like really, really like hard to find. Like next to impossible to find. So... And the Game Boy's region free, so honestly it doesn't matter. So there's a manual, and then there's a cartridge. So yeah, believe it or not, I actually own every version of this game now. Shaun Palmer's Pro Snowboarder only came out on 3 systems, PS2, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. And yeah, I've got all 3 of them now, so I've got a complete Shaun Palmer collection. Plus I made my own like custom-made cover for the unreleased Shaun Palmer's Pro Snowboarder 2 as well. Pretty sure I'm the first person to ever say they have a complete Shaun Palmer collection, but really need to try this out at some point. But yeah, I got that for around £4.49, thereabouts. So I've got the prices like written down on my other phone here. So yeah, so that was about like £4-ish. Right, and then moving on, this was another game I showed off in an Instagram post, but never on video. I mentioned this was one of the Tony Hawk games I wanted in my collection update video, but didn't have at the time, but did buy like shortly after that video came out. And that was Proving Ground for the Nintendo DS. Yes, this was the last Tony Hawk game I needed for my DS collection. I know there's Tony Hawk Motion as well, but I refused to buy that piece of shit. So yes, this was the last Tony Hawk I needed for pretty much the Nintendo handheld collection in general, because I have all the Game Boy Color games now, I have all the Game Boy Advance ones, got all the DS ones now, and got Pro Skater 1, 2 on Switch. So yeah, so I pretty much got all the Nintendo handheld Tony Hawk games. Yeah, it's missing the little health and safety booklet, so the manual's kind of loose in there, but it is complete, as you can see. I have actually tested this one out, and yeah, it's pretty decent. I mean, it's pretty much like the kind of the direct sequel to Skateland on the DS. You know, it was made by Vicarious Visions, both of them, and it has like the same sort of like cel-shaded look that game had, and it plays pretty much the same. So yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, but yeah, I'm just glad they finally had this, because I've wanted this game for such a long time, you know. So yeah, of course, as always, my goal for Tony Hawk games is I want to own every version of all the Neversoft developed games and the Pro Skater 1 2 remake. You know, I'm not going to buy any of the Robomoto ones, you know, just the Neversoft developed games and the remake of 1 and 2. And this was around £6. So yeah, like I'm really want to get like every single version, you know, so even for the consoles I don't own. So yeah, I'm really happy to have that. Alright, then the next game, I know I've definitely shown off in a video before. It was on an extra channel video, so naturally because of that no one watched it. But yeah, the next game is actually an import PSP game, and that is Hatsune Miku Project Diva 2nd. So I've owned the first Project Diva for a really long time. In fact, I have it right up here. That's the first game. I've had that for several years now, and yeah, that cost me like a tenner, I think, which at the time I thought was a pretty good deal, because the Hatsune Miku games are actually like really, really expensive for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. This one I got an insane deal on, actually. This one only cost me like £3. I didn't have to import or anything. It was from a UK seller. These games are really, really expensive, especially like the PSP ones, and even the PS3 ones especially as well. Just all of them, really. All the Hatsune Miku Project Diva games are really expensive. So the fact I got this one for only £3 is pretty insane. So yeah, I quite like these games, actually. I have Future Tone on PS4 and have a demo of Mega Mix on the Switch. And yeah, there is one more Hatsune Miku game for PSP I don't own, Project Diva Extend. That one, the cheapest I've been able to find, it was like 15 quid. So yeah, I'm going to try and hopefully get that, you know, when the price goes down a little bit, when I find a good deal on that. Really happy to have this. PSP is region free, so it can play Japanese games, although I haven't even tested this, which is to be expected at this point. I really don't bother testing any of my games now. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I really have become lazy when it comes to that. But yeah, I'm really happy to have this. All right, and then the next game here is a bit of an interesting one, actually. This is a disc-only game, but it's a disc-only copy of a game that I've had since 2019. But I brought it again because I thought my original copy didn't work. But as it turns out, which I'll explain in a minute, it wasn't the fact that it didn't work, it's just that my PS2 couldn't read it. The next game is 50 Cent Bulletproof for the PS2, disc only, which cost me only about 3 quid. Yeah, so 50 Cent Bulletproof is, I have the case and manual here. So I originally bought this game at CEX back in 2019, around the end of the year. And this is actually my original copy, or at least the case and manual that came with my original copy. Yeah, I brought it in 2019, and I put it on my PS2 and like it wouldn't read. At the time I thought that meant, oh, the disc is just scratched. But it played perfectly fine when I put it in my computer and then ran it through the PCSX2 emulator, which can accept actual PS2 discs. Yeah, it worked perfectly fine with that. I mean, it had some slowdown, but that was mainly due to like my PC not being too powerful. But yeah, the game wouldn't work at all on my PS2. And so I thought, oh, it's probably just because it's like, you know, scratched up, which I actually have my original disc over here, actually. So this was my original disc that came with this copy of the game. And yeah, I don't know why you can even see that, but yeah, I did notice some like scuffs to it, and I thought that it just like, it couldn't read it because of that. But it wasn't like too scratched up. I thought it was weird because the disc wasn't too scratched up. It only had like a few scratches here and there and some scuffs, but yeah, I thought it was really weird that I couldn't play it. But so I brought another copy very recently, and thinking that hopefully that would work, but that one didn't work either. And it didn't seem to make any real sense why it wasn't working, because the disc on this copy is nearly mint. I mean, it has some like fingerprints and stuff. I don't know if that's from me or from the previous owner, but yeah, the disc looked perfectly fine on this one, but it still wouldn't read. So I looked into it, and as it turns out, 50 Cent Bulletproof is one of the few dual-layered games on the PS2, and some models struggle to even play the dual-layered games, like mainly just due to like the laser, just like not being strong enough to actually read them. There's nothing wrong with the disc, it's just my PS2 just can't read the dual-layered games. For whatever reason, and the only solution that I saw online to fix it was just to straight up replace the laser, or at least try to like clean or something, which I'm not going to do. I don't want to mess with the laser. I really don't want to screw it up because it's my original PS2 I've had for years, so I don't want to like have to take it apart or anything. So yeah, it's annoying, which also explains why Gran Turismo 4 didn't work, because Gran Turismo 4 did the exact same thing where that wouldn't work either. Like, my PS2 would read it, but it would read it like really, really slow. You know, like it sounded like the disc was barely even spinning at all. Which is exactly what happened with 50 Cent Bulletproof. So that explains why that game doesn't work either, because that was a dual-layered game as well. So yeah. So I basically just wasted my money then, because yeah, it turns out even if this disc was in immaculate condition, even if it came from a brand new fucking copy of the game, my PS2 still wouldn't be able to read it because it just can't play the dual-layered games. So yeah, that's a bit fucking annoying. So yeah, I guess I might have to get another PS2 at some point and just pray to God that the laser and that one can actually read these discs, or I don't know. But it's a really fucking annoying, that is. But yeah, so that's why I brought another copy. Was I thought it was because the other one was scratched and they couldn't read it, but it turns out it can't read it just because it can't read it, the dual-layered games. So yeah, it's a real shame, that is. So yeah, so I don't know how I'm gonna like fix that. because like I said, I'm not going to open up my PS2 and just tinker with it or anything, because I know for a fact I do not have that kind of experience. I have no, knowledge of how to repair any consoles or anything. So, and I don't want to like damage it, because it's my childhood PS2 that luckily still works. I mean, it's kind of on its last legs. I mean, the internal battery inside died several years ago, so I have to like manually like set the date and time every time I turn on. And occasionally it has some moments where like it just won't read disc at all. Like I'll turn it on, like the disc drive just like won't work straight away. And it also scratches my PS1 discs as well, which is really fucking annoying. Like it leaves a big fucking ring around the discs whenever I play a PS1 game. It plays the PS2 games perfectly fine, like the regular DVD games, and even the blue disc ones, which a lot of PS2 struggle to play. My one reads those perfectly fine, but it's just like PS1 discs that keep scratching them. 9 times out of 10 it scratches them. Sometimes they're fine, but sometimes there's a massive ring around the disc. And it can't play the dual LED games. So, yeah, it's really annoying, that is. But, I just, I might have to get like a new PS2 or something, because I refuse to open up my system, because I know I'm probably going to mess up or something. If you guys know any other methods on how to get dual LED games to work on the PS2 that doesn't involve like taking apart the system, then please let me know, because I really want to play Bulletproof on a proper PS2. It's actually not that bad of a game, to be honest. It's actually kind of a decent little third-person shooter, with a kick-ass soundtrack, because it's 50 Cent. So yeah, I have played on an emulator, but I can't play on my PS2, unfortunately, which really fucking sucks. And I have only just the one PS2 at the moment, so I might need to get like a new system or something just to play the fucking dual LED games. Or hopefully, which there's no way in hell I'll be able to find one for a good price, get a backwards compatible PS3 and play PS2 games on there, and of course PS1 games in HD and stuff. So yeah, so I ended up pretty much wasting £3 because I thought my Bulletproof disc didn't work, but it turned out it was just my PS2. I couldn't read the disc. So yeah, it took a bit of an hour on that, but anyway, let's move on to the next game, shall we? Which hopefully does work, although I haven't tried it. Which I really need to try these fucking games, bruv. Oh my god, I'm so damn lazy. But anyway, the next game is another PSP game. It's a European one, and it's Tekken Dark Resurrection. I absolutely love the Tekken games. It's one of my all-time favorite fighting franchises. Probably my number one, either number one or number two favorite franchises. It's up there with Street Fighter. But I love the Tekken games, and I wanted to get every single console entry in the series. That was my original goal, but I wasn't going to originally get the handheld ones, but I decided, because there's only like a few out there. I've got Tekken Advance, I've had that for years. I've got Tekken 1 through 3 on PS1, Tekken Tag 4 and 5 on PS2, I've got Tekken 6 on 360, and Tekken 7 on PS4. Would love to get Tekken 8 when it comes out, but I don't have a PS5 at the moment, and I don't know if I will by the time it comes out in January. And I still need to get Tag Tournament 2 on the Xbox 60. But I also decided, I might as well get a few of the handheld games as well. I don't really know a whole lot about Dark Resurrection, but I think this game is it's based on Tekken 5. And there was a version of this, I believe, like a HD version that came out early on for the PS3. That was like digital only. Yeah, it's the first 3D Tekken game on a handheld. And I haven't tested it out yet, so I can't comment on the actual game itself. But it's complete. And it's even got the original 10 out of 10 sticker on the front, which is pretty cool. It's cost me about £3.94, so nearly £4. And I really need to test this out. But so I'm glad to get this one off the list now. It's pretty much just Tag Tournament 2, Tekken 3D Prime Edition for the 3DS. And of course Tekken 8 when that comes out, and I think that's it. So so it's pretty much just like those three, and then my collection will be complete until they eventually do like a Tekken 9 or whatever. But so I need to test it out at some point. Same with Project Diva. I haven't even fired up my PSP in God knows how long. I don't know if it still works. Alright, and then the next game here is the most expensive one by far. In my opinion, I paid way too much for this, but considering how much this game usually goes for, even loose cart, I kind of got a bit of a deal on it, but it's still really, really expensive for the condition it's in. It's a Game Boy Advance game, and it is Duke Nukem Advance. This was, of course, a GBA exclusive Duke Nukem game. Well, not for long, actually, because this game's going to be part of the Duke Nukem collection for the Evercade, which comes out in November. In case you haven't heard, they're actually going to release 2 new Duke Nukem collections for the Evercade system. The first one has Duke Nukem 1 and 2 remastered, and Duke 3D. And the second collection is going to have the 2 PlayStation games, Time to Kill and Land of the Babes, as well as Duke Nukem Advance. Unfortunately, that collection isn't going to be out on any other system, at least as we know of right now. It's only going to be coming to the Evercade, which is fucking annoying. I really, really hope they bring that collection, just like both of them, combine the 2, and put them on other systems. But if those collections really do remain Evercade exclusive, then I might actually get an Evercade just to play them. Like, I'm not gonna lie, they've kind of sold me on the system just with those Duke Nukem collections, especially like with Duke Nukem 1 and 2 remastered, you know? Like having those on like a proper console for once, and Duke Nukem Advance being re-released for the first time is just, yeah, it's a real shame it's not coming out on other systems, but I low-key want an Evercade just for those 2 games. But anyway, so here's Duke Nukem Advance, a very, very expensive GBA game. You know, I spent 17 quid on this. Yeah, and just the loose cart as well, 17 quid on this game. It's the most amount of money I've ever spent on a GBA game, ever. And I hope to never spend that much on a GBA game ever again. I mean, I bought fucking complete in box GBA games for less price than that. But this game is just, I don't know what it is. I mean, I know it's a very uncommon game, but it's not like rare or anything, because you can find like super easy online. But it is really fucking expensive. Complete in box copies of this go for like over 60 quid, depending on condition. Like, it is insane. Even just loose cart on average is like over 25 quid. Like, I don't know what it is, but Duke Nukem Advance is a really, really expensive fucking game. But yeah, I spent fucking 17 quid on this, which, in my opinion, is a hell of a lot for a loose cart GBA game. But for Duke Nukem Advance, it was kind of a bargain. So, you know, I placed a bid on it. You know, I didn't expect it to win whatsoever. But I ended up winning at the last minute. So I really didn't want to spend that much on the game. I really didn't want to. I was kind of considering actually cancelling my order. But then I realised that realistically, I'm never going to get the game any cheaper than that. It's still expensive, but I'm probably not going to get it any cheaper than that. So I ended up pulling the trigger, and now I'm broke because of it. Yeah, but I'm still glad to finally have it, because I've wanted this game for a really, really, really long time. It just sucks I have to spend so much damn money on it. I actually have tested this out, so it does work. I mean, you fucking hope so for 17 quid. But yeah, it's actually a pretty decent game. You know, it's a GBA exclusive, Duke Nukem FPS. I just hope that I never have to spend that much fucking money on a Game Boy game ever again, because that's just fucking ridiculous. 17 quid for a loose cart game. Just no. Alright, down to the last 2 games here. So the next one I have up is a PS1 game, and it's a game I've wanted for a really long time. It's a game that recently just got remastered, actually, like only about a month ago, so it may seem a bit strange to get this version of the game, considering it's now out on modern platforms. I still wanted it regardless, even though I do actually have the remaster on my PS4, and that is Quake 2. Yeah, the original PlayStation version of Quake 2. Now, yeah, like I said, this was a game I wanted for a really long time, and I know Night Dive just put out a remaster to this game, like back in early August, I think it was, for all major systems and PC and stuff, and it is a really good remaster. I actually have it on my PS4 digitally, which is one of the very rare occasions I actually buy a game digitally. I know there's a physical release coming out from Limited Run, but Limited Run stuff is just like way too expensive, you know, especially to import it from America. And it was only like $7.99, I think. So I decided just to get it digitally, you know. But I still wanted to have some physical version of Quake 2, and so I got the PlayStation version to fill that void. Now, actually, this is my second physical copy of Quake 2, because I have Quake 4 on the 360, which also has the bonus disc that has Quake 2 on it, and that's a really good port as well. But yeah, I've actually never played the PS1 version. I've seen footage of this, you know, for years, and it always looks like one of the most technically impressive games on the original PlayStation. Like, it looks really, really good for the hardware. No manual, which is really annoying. This is, I think, the first time I've ever brought a PS1 game with no manual. But it doesn't matter, because I did find another seller on eBay who was selling just a bunch of, like, a random lot of different manuals for various different game consoles. And one of them was Quake 2 for the PS1, so we had that for sale. So I brought that for like a 5 or so. So I should be getting a manual for this over the next few days. But yeah, and the game itself cost me around about like £7 thereabouts. I haven't tested it out yet, but I'm really looking forward to. Quake 2 is a really good game. It's probably, I'd say, yeah, my favorite of the Quake games. I haven't played all of them. I played Quake 1 on PS4 and Switch, the Night Dive remaster, and then Quake 2 on PS4, the 360, and now PS1, and have Quake 3 Revolution for PS2 and Quake 4 for 360. But yeah, really happy to have that. Alright, and then the final game for today's episode is a game for system that I actually don't own. It's actually the second time I brought a game for this particular system that I don't own, but I mainly brought it just for the collection. It is yet another Tony Hawk game, and it's Proving Ground for the PlayStation 3. So yes, the PlayStation 3, which I don't even own a PS3. Now, this isn't the first time I have actually brought a PS3 game, because if you guys remember, about a year ago, in one of my old CX Pickups videos, I actually brought a copy of Time Crisis 4 for the PS3 at CEX. It was only like £3 or £4 thereabouts. It was pretty cheap, and it was actually the one PS3 exclusive game that I really wanted for many years, but obviously couldn't get because I don't own the system. But I brought it anyway at CEX because it was really cheap. And of course, like I mentioned many times before, I'm trying to get every version of every Tony Hawk game more or less. So that include, of course, the ones for systems that I don't own. And this was actually the last version of Proving Ground that I needed to get to complete that set for that specific game, because I now have every single version of this game. I have the PS2 version, PS3 of course right here, Xbox 60, Wii, and DS. So yeah, I own every version of the final Neversoft developed Tony Hawk game. You know, it sucks I can't play it, but you know, I want it mainly just for the collection. And it is complete, as you can see. And yeah, it's cool to have another PS3. It does suck that I don't have a PS3. It really does suck, because the thing is with the PS3 is that because obviously the architecture of it was so complicated, you know, it's pretty much impossible to play PS3 games other than on a PS3. I mean, I know there's like emulators and stuff, which are getting better, you know, over time. You know, the PS3 emulators are getting a lot more accurate to the actual hardware, but still, like on actual consoles, you need a PS3 to play PS3 games, you know, because it's not like nothing else is backwards compatible with it, you know, so it really sucks. But, you know, at least now when I finally get a PS3, at least now I'll have 2 games that I can play on it. So there is that. And this was relatively cheap as well, only about like £3 or £4. So I decided why not. I'm also going to get the PS3 version of Project 8 as well. And then that will be the PS3 set complete. Because like I said, I'm not bothering with any other Roman Rotor ones, just the Neversoft ones. So, yeah. So it's cool to have. Sucks I can't play it, but you know, at least when I do get a PS3, at least I'll immediately have at least 2 games to play on it. So there is that. Alright guys, so there you have it. That was today's episode of CX Pickups. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And this isn't even everything that I brought recently actually. I've still got like some more stuff that's coming in the post, like right now as we speak pretty much. But all that stuff I decided I'm going to show off in the next episode of games I recently brought online. So just as a quick teaser as to what games you can expect to see in that episode, I brought a couple of Sega Mega Drive games, because remember I have a Sega Mega Drive now. I've got one for Christmas. I brought both Desert Strike and Jungle Strike, so I've got those coming in the post. And as well as that, I also brought another copy of a game I already own. I brought another copy of Duke Nukem Land of the Babes, mainly because my one was just the disc and manual, and you know, I like my games to be complete, so I brought yet another copy of the game with the case as well, and of course the manual. So yes, I'm just going to sell this copy. And what else did I buy? Let's see, I brought the manual for Quake 2, I mentioned that already. And I also brought another PlayStation 1 memory card. I actually bought a Driver 2 themed PS1 memory card. It looks the exact same as this one. This is the GTA 2 memory card. As you can see, it's black and has the GTA 2 logo on it. But the difference is that the one I just brought has Driver 2 on it, so it's Driver 2 branded rather than GTA 2. But yeah, but the memory card just looks the exact same pretty much. So yeah, so I got that coming as well. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, please like, subscribe, and peace. I shall see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care now.